It is December 8th, 1999. I am talking to George Balderose, who is in Pittsburgh.
Hello, George speaking.
Hi, George. This is Michael Scully in Texas.
Hi, Michael.
You have a moment now? You have some time? Good. Good. Well, I think my email kind of spelled out the short version of this. I'm writing a book about tradition and the ways in which it plays out nowadays among different types of groups. I'm interested in the ways in which it intersects with the world of commerce and popular music. I'm spending a lot of time working with the folks at Rounder Records to try and look at how they've negotiated those shoals a bit. And I wanted to use the Folk Alliance as one organizing tool through which I can talk about this. I've talked about this informally with Phyllis Barney, who has been very helpful and has told me, as far as she's concerned, I should go ahead. She sent me a lot of the stuff about the earliest days, the meetings in Malibu, and sent me the minutes of that, and some of the conference materials from Philly. And what I'm in the process of doing right now is contacting the people who were on the initial steering committee, and you were one of those. And that's how I came to call you at this point. So, I guess the first thing I should ask you is I have been tape recording people where they're willing, because it helps me retain what I'm doing and make it usable. So, are you willing to let me do that? I can do it right off the phone here.
Yeah, can you hold on just a second?
Sure.
Hi, Carol.
George, you're on the line with me.
All right, hold on.
Yeah. Why don't I kind of start at the beginning, although I've some of the history has been getting repeated as I talk to people, but I would like to know your earliest impressions. First of all, did you know the Weissmans, and why did you understand you were being invited out to Malibu? What was presented to you?
Yeah, I had known the Weissmans beforehand because my work as an agent
Right.
necessitated contact with them.
Yeah.
So Elaine, I think, explained to me personally back then the intent of the organization.
And what was that?
Well, in a nutshell, have a trade show for traditional folk music.
Okay. And was the trade show kind of the predominant principle at that point?
Well, yeah, but I think, in all fairness, I don't think they were using the word trade show.
Okay.
That word term's been bannered about over the years. It's more than that.
Okay.
It's a lot of networking. I mean, they just wanted an event wherein all these different people involved in different roles in folk music could come together and share information.
And that, are you describing what she envisioned the ongoing organization like, or what the intent of Malibu specifically was?
Well, Malibu, but it was also to get this thing going.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess it was. I mean, the thing definitely has evolved beyond their original vision.
Right. You did use the word traditional. I take it that was conscious when you referred to her initial vision.
Yeah.
Okay, so she predominantly, I guess, didn't envision, and you might not have, since the ways in the singer-songwriter role as it's come out.
No, I wouldn't say that any of us. Well, I can't speak for everybody, but I didn't, and I don't think Elaine did envision the upsurge of the singer-songwriters,
Right.
Which have got almost to a dominant position in the organization.
Right.
Numbers
Sure.
But I think it was more for traditional music at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and singer-songwriters just kind of filled the ranks very quickly, and they were, really shape the organization in different ways.
Right, right. What were some of the issues, if there were any, that were bandied about back then as the organization was getting going? And I mean Malibu, I mean in the steering committee discussions, or even in Philly. I mean, what seemed to be crucial to deciding what you would be? And as an example of what I'm talking about, some people have already told me that the issue of whether individuals could join or whether it would be an organization of organizations was a big deal to some. How did that play out, if you recall? Do you recall what were the pros and cons from your perspective?
Well, that particular issue boiled down to voting power, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I think there were representatives of several large folk organizations that leaned toward the view that the professionals or semi-professionals invest for the fledgling industry, if you will.
Right. Uh-huh.
And there were others who didn't want to make that concession to them and felt that in the long run a more democratic and open organization would be in the best interest of everybody.
Right. Uh-huh. What was the vision? Okay, you mentioned networking, but Elaine wanted people to come together and create an ongoing organization to come together. I mean, what was that going to do? And did you feel at the time it could help you? I guess is a better way to make that tangible. How could it have helped you?
Well, as an agent, it would help. I would be one of the first people to benefit from it, really,
Mm-hmm.
because I would make personal contact with voices on the phone, that
Right.
people who I had knew only through phone contact. So that fills out a picture and makes a relationship a much more stable one.
Sure. Yeah.
Business with people. So,
Right.
and meeting the people, just getting an opportunity to talk to people who I hadn't had an opportunity to meet or talk with before
Mm-hmm.
would ultimately accrue some benefit.
Right. Were there any other, points of, contention's probably too strong a word, but akin to that individual versus organizational membership thing, were there any other controversies, for want of a better word, that stood out, or was it mostly a kind of seamless path to at least getting the bylaws approved?
Well, the issues and controversies were I think, hashed out in the steering committee meeting. They weren't hashed out at Malibu.
Okay, and what were those?
The meeting happened later.
Right.
They hired a facilitator, Cheryl Ewan.
Right.
Who I think I was the one that identified her as a good facilitator.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she came from the National Assembly of Local Arts Agencies.
Uh-huh.
So the choice of her was important too, because she philosophically or politically was more in line with people who felt that an individual voice was important.
I see. Okay.
And I think most of those people on the steering committee felt that way too,
Mm-hmm.
my recollection. I mean, one of the issues at the time that I'd like not to be quoted on
Sure, whatever.
was the involvement of Weissmans.
Okay.
And over the years, because of their passion for folk music and the power that it brings to the people who produce its events, have pissed off a lot of people over the years.
Yeah.
Dealing with them roughly,
Mm-hmm.
or too aggressively, or if you To the point where Bess Lomax Hawes, who was the head of the folk division of the NEA, told me personally that until the Weissmans are gone, we're not supporting the organization. And it fell on my shoulders at some point during the steering committee discussions to quietly, in private, tell the Weissmans that the NEA felt that way about them, because they just weren't accepting anything about them not being really involved throughout the life of this thing.
Right.
I basically said, look, Clark and Elaine, this is the opinion of people who we need the support of, and I just thought I'd let you know that.
Yeah.
And they thought about it for a while and basically decided, I think, not to run for the board in the second term or something. I mean, they kind of graciously bowed out from putting themselves up for election. And other people presented a concession, if you will, to give them the title of founders.
Right.
And that's how that worked out.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten some of that in various ways through others, and I remember my impression of them at I've attended some of the conferences, and I've had this, I don't know, I haven't talked to them at any length, but I have had this strange impression that there's some tension that follows them around. Revered founders who no one wants to quite talk to. I've seen sometimes. I didn't quite figure it out until I started doing this. Was the organizational versus individual thing the only real issue that got hashed out in the steering committee? And I guess the Weissmans were a bit of an issue that followed. Were there any other things that come to mind?
It's hard. Well, what is the purpose of the organization?
Right.
We addressed that, with the steering committee and the facilitator. Cheryl helped us sort out our main purposes.
Right.
Networking, education, and I guess there's three others.
They're in front of me: advocacy, field development, professional development. I'm looking at my little interview template.
Yeah, so we, sorted out the pros and cons of that, and ultimately approved that list of 5 with definitions.
Right.
As well as the bylaws.
Yeah.
I think I chaired the bylaws committee, actually.
Okay.
And so that was another thing that the steering committee basically hashed out and brought to the general conference at its next meeting for a vote.
Right.
And they were accepted. But in terms of any more specifics about things, it's hard for me to remember. It was so long ago.
Oh, I understand.
I know that processing of ballots was a very important concern for some people. Other people wanted the organization to have the ability to breed more organizations or regional organizations, and so that was made possible.
Right. The processing of ballots, was that just a mechanical issue as to how best to ensure fairness? Or secrecy or something along?
Yeah, it was secrecy.
Okay. Yeah, okay. When you first mentioned, when we talked about the invitation to Malibu and your understanding of the purpose, you consciously used the word tradition. So I'd like to plumb that a little bit more. I know that the organization has consciously decided never to define folk, and I gather that was a decision made early on. And it seems perhaps a little at odds with an emphasis on tradition. I know this is nuanced, but how did that play out, this decision about folk? Was that talked about at all, to the extent that you recall? I assume it was, but what do you recall about it in the early stages of things?
How did it play out? I don't know. I think Mark Moss was pretty good with those kind of traditional music per se. There may have been an attempt to find folk that was abandoned early on in the process.
Right.
I think everybody on the steering committee accepted that traditional music and dance was at the center of what we were all about.
Okay.
And I mean, on the steering committee, I would say that most of the people that were there were almost entirely involved with organizations that had a connection with those art forms.
I think that's true, yeah.
Some of them, you know, like Sing Out Magazine, are also involved with singer-songwriters, so the line kind of got blurred, but it never became an issue in those days.
Okay. How do you think, you know, you've got these...
One of the major issues was how is it possible for a national or a supranational organization to represent so many diverse interests that traditional music and dance comprises, and how to do it in a way where people would be, you know, looking forward to getting together each year.
Right.
And that was one of the, and then it became from there, the next step was, well, everybody's interested in the promotion of the field, as it were, so what kind of purposes can we espouse to basically promote, you know, make this whole world of folk music grow.
Okay.
And then that's where the mission statement that came out. But I think there was a shared interest in helping not only helping folk music grow, as it were, but trying to put it on an equal footing with other art forms in the commercial world.
Okay.
You know, I mean, that's where this trade show idea creeped in, which caught me by surprise because I hadn't really expected it to become that so quickly. But I think because of Art Media's, Art became, I think, the first executive director.
Right.
And he came to us from the IBMA, where he ran a trade show, and that whole thing is about trade shows.
Right.
And so it slipped into a trade show context very quickly. I wasn't really thinking trade show at all when I went to Malibu. I was thinking of a festival.
I see. Okay.
And then it became a trade show. And I should have been thinking of a trade show given the fact I'm an agent. I go to trade shows, you know, mostly classical music.
Okay.
Bring, you know, folk music onto acoustic stages that pay good bucks, but I also deal with folk music societies and festivals and so on and so forth, but not so much in the trade show format because there wasn't one at the time.
Right.
Folk Alliance had created a trade show, which I needed, really.
Yeah.
And I want to meet who directs the Vancouver, Winnipeg, and Calgary Folk Festivals face to face, you know.
Yeah.
So on. And it helps business too. But I think art's influence in those early days got us on the trade show track rather quickly.
As that seemed to come to the fore, as people like yourself said, "Hey, we've got a big trade show going on," was there any strong resistance? Was there any call? Oh, yeah, I don't know. Up to the present day, and I'm aware of continuing debates about the dominance of singer-songwriters and the role of tradition. But has there been any strong call of which you're aware to shift gears a bit, either early on or at any point up to the present, and call a halt to what the trade show has become and find another outlet or another way?
Not to my knowledge. No, I haven't. I think everybody blindly accepted that was the way to go.
Now, were you on the board beyond the steering committee role?
I was elected to a 4-year term.
Okay, and you completed that?
Yeah.
Okay. How was that experience for you? Was it a worthwhile one, or something you would have, you know?
To do it over again?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I think so. Yeah. It was pretty precarious. I mean, a lot of in those days we didn't have the staff that we have now.
Right.
So people were pretty careful about what they would like to see done because ultimately
They had to do it.
they would have to do it.
Right. Yeah.
But a lot of the more cerebral issues associated with bylaws got ironed out and sorted out. A framework was established.
Right.
Those meetings and the general contours of the show. And Art, with all his experience dealing with the IBMA, just plugged that model into it, so we really didn't have to hash out a lot of the logistics
Right.
on the board as to the running and production of these trade shows, because Art was able to pull it off,
Mm-hmm.
without really asking us a lot of input.
Now,
I mean, there was a site, another issue in those days was where these events happen,
mm-hmm.
and having a movable site and incorporating Canadian venues, was all very self-consciously discussed and figured out.
Okay. Was Art's choice made because he was involved in IBMA, which was a big trade show, or was it kind of serendipity that Art was chosen for reasons X, Y, Z, and because he was chosen, the organization took a trade show model? I mean,
I
or
think the latter.
okay,
I don't think they were looking to the IBMA for guidance per se. I
right,
don't think we ever really contacted anybody in the IBMA except Art. Art embodied a love of traditional music.
Mhm.
And that kind of really came through. I mean, you know Art?
yeah, I've talked to Art, and he's
He's like, he was born in the holler and he's never left.
yeah,
And but he's intelligent.
right,
Can bring that kind of cultural background to intelligent discussions,
Right.
very intelligent discussions about organization,
yeah,
and that impressed a lot of people because he had his foot in both camps. I mean, he was an organizer, but he was apparently a traditionalist as well.
right,
And he could recite chapter and verse of every bluegrass performer that ever lived, so he was really interested in history and personalities and the things that traditionalists are interested in.
right,
Rather than people interested in the commercial singer-songwriting.
sure,
So it was serendipity in that way, but I mean, serendipity is a better word to describe how he was elected than to say that he was chosen because of his background in the IBMA, but still serendipity overlooks the fact that he was the man for the job. I mean, he wasn't a default
right, okay,
character. He spoke, people listened.
yeah,
He did it very effectively, and inspired a lot of people, really. I mean, so I give a lot of credit to Art in those stages, because if Art wasn't there, I'm not sure what would have happened. I don't think the trade show model would have been so easily accepted.
okay,
See, I don't think a trade show model would have been easily accepted at all. I think there would have been a lot of discussion about what is this event supposed to look like.
right,
But Art advocated the trade show model, and everybody listening basically persuaded people that this was obviously the right way to go.
This was during the steering committee sessions?
Yeah, pretty much, and maybe the first board.
Okay.
Well, that was probably steering committee,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe the early years on the board.
Okay, so that model, as a model, was discussed in those terms. Like I
Yeah.
I advocate something that looks like a trade show.
Eventually, I mean, you know, it didn't get to that point within the steering committee.
Okay. You said did not? Or did not or did?
Did.
Oh, okay, okay. Was there some contra-argument, bearing in mind that art was listened to? Were you know, you said you had initially envisioned a festival.
No, I think the Weissmans were in the primary position of presenting such a counter-argument, and they never really presented it.
Okay.
Because they were just thinking big, and trade show means big,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Right.
And I don't think they cared at the time what it would look like, as long as it meant big.
Right.
And again, Art was able to persuade everybody that if you're thinking big, a trade show helps the most amount of people.
Mm-hmm. What's your take on, you worked out these 5 goals that we reiterated a few moments ago: education, networking, advocacy, field development, professional development. How do you feel the organization over the years has done in working with all or any of those goals? Where's it been strongest? Where's it been most lacking? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Probably strongest in networking.
Uh-huh.
Probably weakest in professional development. Or education.
Right.
Professional development may not be a weak goal for them. I mean, it has.
May not be a weak goal, an appropriate goal? Yeah.
No,
Oh, may not be a weak goal. Okay.
yeah, I should put it at the bottom of the list.
Okay.
Because it has forced the trade show, just by its existence, has forced a lot of people in folk music to think more professionally.
Okay.
You know, just if they want to attend it, present themselves in a business-like manner.
Right.
So I don't see a lot going on in education. I might be out of the loop or something.
How long has it been since you did a 4-year term on the board after beginning with Philly?
Yeah.
That would be beginning in 90s. You went to 94. And since then, have you just gone to the conferences? Or okay, you haven't taken any part in running it or decision?
I was, one of the things that happened, and not one of the other things that happened, I mean, first, let's just go back to the trade show concept.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't simply coming from art, because, and one of the reasons why I was able to see Art's point very quickly was because I went to these trade shows in classical music.
Okay.
And acoustic, you know, which was acoustic, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I see as cousin kind of fields of traditional music.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were other people on the steering committee who had that experience. I think they knew that the arts presenters trade show existed and was successful in promoting the field of classical music. Well, one thing that I got very much involved in on that first board, besides the bylaws committee and chairing that, was I took responsibility for finding out what the new regulations for foreign artists coming into the country were going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
It was a concern in Malibu, and one of the reasons why I got on the board to the steering committee was because I was able to speak at Malibu at the open mic intelligently about these rumors that people were hearing about the INS clamping down on folk musicians coming into the country to perform.
Okay.
It was a small issue in the larger scope of things, but a very vocal one, because a lot of people really wanted their favorite Irish musician to come over, and it looked like the INS was changing things to make that more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But I have been bringing over folk artists since 1978, and was very good at getting proper And I had the good fortune of knowing a top-flight immigration lawyer in Pittsburgh who was on the panel of the American Association of Immigration Lawyers that was reviewing these proposed changes by Congress.
Okay.
So I got the scoop basically and wrote an article under the rubric of the Focal Alliance at some point, which defined how performing artists can get visas under this new system,
Okay.
which scooped the arts presenters field itself, and that article became, for at least 2 years into the new regulations, it became the article that the arts presenters people referred queries to.
Mm-hmm.
So that gave the Focal Alliance a lot of credibility in the world of presenting, in the arts presenting world.
Right.
The NEA
Okay.
included, and they came to know about those people who have ties in the political realm.
Yeah.
To know the existence of the Focal Alliance through that effort, this collaboration on the visas, and us having an intelligent opinion about it.
Right.
That's getting a sidestep from the trade show issue, but
Well, it's
that was
useful.
an important issue to me at the time.
Right.
Helping get some clear understanding of what these things were about.
Right.
And then the Focal Alliance used them, as well as the arts presenters people, for as I said, the Focal Alliance may still be using it, for all I know, but the arts presenters, after a few years, retained a professional immigration lawyer to refer questions to. But I got a lot of queries from all over the place from people about, from in the classical world, about bringing arts to the country.
Oh, I see. So basically, from where I sit, I've been kind of going to these conferences as a curious fan, probably one of the types of people that some folks didn't think should be going to the Focal Alliance at all. Also as a cultural writer and part and an academic. And it seems to me that from the standpoint of a casual participant, the biggest thing the Focal Alliance gets done is to produce its conference in which everybody can come together, and other things kind of fall by the wayside. I mean, is that something that corresponds to your view of it, working in?
Pretty much.
Okay. How do you see, have you in your work had to deal at all with people that call themselves public folklorists or public sector folklorists, usually academics who are not working in the academic world but in the nonprofit world or state folk arts agencies?
Are or are not state folk?
Or which are? Have you had to involve yourself with these folks at all? People who are in state folk arts agencies are.
Yeah.
But okay. Was there ever any discussion of getting those folks involved in the Focal Alliance? Because by and large, not too many of those people, it seems to me, to come. Peggy Bolger comes, and Joe Wilson came in the early days, but I don't see too many of folks there now really actively involved. Was that ever an issue, bringing them in?
No, it was never an issue.
Okay.
In terms of any, should we self-consciously decide to bring them in or not?
Right.
I think it was I kind of remember some concern about them being represented. I don't know if Tony Seeger was in that category.
Well, sort of. I mean, he came in as he had a funny role. I mean, he's an ethnomusicologist who's done a lot of field work, but he sort of came in as the head of a record company.
I know when I voted him to be in, I didn't think of him as head of a record company.
Oh, okay.
In fact, we hardly ever talked that among
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't say there was any self-consciousness about it. I mean, although, when you get kind of swept up in the idea of making something big,
Mm-hmm.
folklorists aren't usually part of that picture.
Right. Well, I guess that leads into something I'm wondering about. Has the Folk Alliance, as far as you can tell, played any role at all in helping to preserve or develop vernacular traditions kind of on the ground? I mean, what has it done, do you think? And maybe you're uniquely suited to answer this, since you do represent some of what could be called more vernacular stuff. Do you think the Alliance has helped, preserve, folk traditions?
You've used that word preserve twice
Okay.
in a minute or two. I'm not quite sure that's the right word.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's a pretty radical view of folklore to see it as in the preservation business.
Okay.
As our museum.
Right.
If there was another word that contained more of the element of promote,
Mm-hmm.
I think, or encourage, if you will, the growth of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I see the showcases doing that for regional performers. I mean, what's coming to mind is the Albuquerque one. There was another one in the Southwest besides Albuquerque.
Oh, there was Tucson.
Tucson was amazing because whoever put that showcase together spent a lot of effort digging out local performers,
Mm-hmm.
and so there were a lot of people from the Southwest, Hispanic and Indian,
Right.
as well as cowboy regional performers that I thought were great to see, and really that was one of the early conferences, so I thought it helped define what the showcases were all about,
Mm-hmm.
showcasing, i.e. regional performers.
Right.
And I still think that is part of what the site selection committee continues to consider when they go from place to place. I know that Calliope Folk Music Society here in town, Pittsburgh, that I founded, is the local sponsor for the 2002 event.
Mm-hmm.
And they're taking pretty seriously what ethnic groups that come from this region should be recommended for showcase slots.
Right.
I think there's a proportion of showcase slots that are regional,
Mm-hmm.
because they're not in that rest maybe national. But
Yeah, and it's
I
under
see
constant
that.
change, apparently. It's under constant change, apparently.
Yeah, but I see those showcases as promoting, perpetuating regional folk music.
Right.
Beyond those showcases, I'm a little bit at a loss.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess what I was thinking as you were talking about the showcases, have you had artists showcase there? Artists that you represent?
At the Folk Alliance?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Leslie, has any of our artists showcased at the Folk Alliance showcase? Of our artists showcased at the Folk Alliance? No, ever. I don't think so.
Okay. I guess then.
David Hope will be.
Okay.
And I think this coming one.
I guess in some ways that answers my next question, which is if you know, well, maybe it doesn't. Do you know of any case in which a showcase has made some real changes for a traditionally based act?
No, I can't say that I have. But that's not, I'm just looking at it from one small corner.
Right.
But most of the artists on our roster are well known by members of the folk community.
Right. Right.
So it's tough. I know the showcases have been disappointing for some artists.
Mm-hmm.
Really disappointing. Not getting many gigs out of them, for example.
Right.
Which I attribute to the still developing nature of the whole field. There aren't that many presenters in folk music that pay top dollar for acts.
Right.
And they only have a certain number of slots possible any given year.
Right.
So there's that.
Well, that's an interesting point, and it goes beyond the Folk Alliance, but I'm interested in your thoughts on that. Has that changed over the last dozen years? And I use that only coincidentally because that's how long the Folk Alliance has been around. Is that changing? Are you getting more opportunity to present the type of artists that you represent? Is it tightening up? Chris Strachwitz has told me he's having a harder time selling records. Other people have told me they don't think that's true, and who also make similar types of records, so it may be just him. But what's your take on the ability to market and present some traditionally based artists? And whether it's changing
I
or not.
think it's getting tougher.
Really?
Yeah. Competition has a lot to do with it.
How so? I'm not sure I follow you there. Obviously not competition from traditional presenters, because then it would get easier. You'd have more.
No competition from folk artists. In particular, my two acts are John McCutcheon and Robin Linda Williams, and they're fine group. I represent a host of others, but
Right.
not exclusively.
Yeah.
So those two are in both the traditional music realm and the singer-songwriter realm.
Right.
And there's just a lot of other groups out there that are competing for the same venues, really,
Mm-hmm.
any given year.
Right.
Number one. And number two, the audiences themselves are being barraged by all kinds of new technology that chews up their time. So it seems like they're spending less on going to concerts. So the market's getting a little bit tighter, and people are looking more at the bottom line about whether or not a given artist's fee is affordable, even if the artist has a 20-year track record.
Yeah.
So those forces, I think, are combining to make it more difficult to get the good fees that artists need to really survive and thrive.
Right. Now, what about something like, I just clicked onto your website, which I had up here. You've got the Coal Country Cloggers, which I think would be an idiosyncratic sell.
Yeah, it is.
What kind of opportunities exist? And I don't mean to, maybe that's too idiosyncratic, but, I don't know, Scottish bagpipe music, which is another thing you've got on there. Has that, or Mick Maloney?
We can talk about that because my other hat is, and this was also present back at the founding of the Folk Alliance. I'm not only an agent, I'm also a piper.
Right.
And founder and director of a bagpiping school. It's 20 years in existence.
Okay.
With over 300 students at summer schools each year.
Okay.
So, what was your question?
Well, I guess how easy do folks like that, Scott, bagpipers, clog dancers, How do they get out and earn fees for their work? Has that been tightening up? Is it hard? Do people want river dance everywhere they go? What has that changed over the years, and in what direction? And what's its state right now?
Definitely had a big impact. Riverdance has.
In what sense then?
Because people want to see that flash. Concert audiences want to see that traditional art form on a stage and done in a flashy way.
Right.
In terms of how do these artists with specialized skills make a living? Well, most of them, in the Coal Country's Congress case, all of them have straight jobs and they just go out on Saturday or Friday night gigs that are driving distance, flying distance, and the money's there.
Yeah.
So I'm not, I don't try to keep them on the road all the time.
Right.
In fact, I only get them 4 or 5 gigs a year probably. They're $3,000 gigs at colleges in Ohio, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania. Alistair Gillis, the piper on there, even though he has credentials as the world's greatest piper, he makes his living teaching pipes at Carnegie Mellon University.
Yeah.
And actually, he's so busy going to competitions and judging and winning prizes himself that he's not on me very much to get him gigs. And even if I was out there getting him gigs, I know from my own experience that they're only in selected communities that have a pretty strong interest in pipe bands or Highland games or something. Because they're an audience for the world's greatest solo piper. I mean, a lot depends on the composition of the area and